our live studio show here in Brazil, the 7th round of the FIM MX2 Motocross World Championship. And here we are in our live studio show. I'm here with Jake Nicholls, Wilvo Nestaan Ice1 Racing KTM's team, and also Rui Goncalves from Ice1 Racing from the MX1 category. And Rui Goncalves, I'm not sure if you can hear me over there because just having one or two little technical problems here, but maybe just bear with me if you can. It's been a tough start to the season for you. You picked up an injury just before Qatar or at Qatar. How have you now, and you know, what's been happening since then?
Yeah, definitely. It was a tough beginning of the season with my hand injury before Qatar in Mantova. So yeah, it was difficult. I couldn't ride so much my bike, and but yeah, we first races were okay and did pretty good, and yeah, but the rest of the season we just tried to improve every time. We did some tests with the bike and tried to improve in there, and here we are in Brazil now. It's not the best weekend for me. I'm quite sick. I have fever and not so much energy, so I need to take some medication, and we're just gonna go another moto for the super final and try to do the best as I can, and hope to bring some good points home.
And what about here? The first race was pretty tough for you. I see, you know, 18th in the first race. I guess with the super final format, you know, it's one of those rounds where you're pleased to be inside the top 10 in the championship. You didn't have to go out in the last chance time session. What was the issue? Do you have some bike problem, a bad start, or is it something else?
Yeah, it was a bad start, and then in the first early laps I had a crash in the whoops, so I needed to start dead last, and then just tried to make my way through. But like I said, I've been feeling sick and not so much energy. It's been tough for me this weekend, and just been taking medication to try to be out there and race. And yeah, you know, it's not easy. And but yeah, it is. We go another moto now for the super final together with MX2. So hope to have a good start, like you said, and it's going to be important to do that and stay inside top 10 and then just go from there. You know, it's when you maybe have a good start, and then things can be a little bit better.
Obviously, just the 2 top 10 finishes this year for your new team, Ice1 Racing KTM. I don't even have to ask, are you disappointed with that? I know you have high expectations of yourself. So if all things considered and you're 100% healthy, no injuries, this kind of thing, getting good starts, where do you expect your level to be in 2013?
Yeah, you know, like the goal is to improve every time. You know, like I said, we had a tough beginning of the season, and with my hand injury, we got back from that, had some pretty decent races, and we keep on working hard together with the team. I'm so pleased and happy to have such a great team behind me. You know, the Ice1 Racing team is so professional, and they put a lot of effort into this, and I'm so pleased to be a part of it. You know, and yeah, I just need to give my best, and like I said, try to improve every time, and then to try to bring as much points as possible at home.
Okay, obviously best weather conditions we've had here at this Beto Carreira circuit in the 2 years that we've been here. A little bit of rain yesterday in the qualifying race, but almost perfect conditions out on the racetrack now. I know you just said you're feeling a little bit sick, but looking forward all the same going out and riding here in Brazil, because for you it's like a second home GP, isn't it?
Yeah, it's true. You know, we speak the same language, and it's quite nice to be here. The crowd is really excited, and you know, like they really put a lot of effort when they are out there. You know, they are you know, like cheering for us and this. So it's really a lot of energy around the circuit, and yeah, it's like a second home GP for me, and it's going to be really important in the super final to have a good start, and definitely try to stay consistent laps, even if the energy level is not so high. We're going to need to fight with what we have, and that's what I'm going to do on the super final.
All right, well, look, I know you're going to rush off and get some medication and get yourself ready for that super final. So, Rui Goncalves, Ice1 Racing KTM from MX1, thanks for now. All the best in the super final. And if you want to just put your headset on the back here, I'll have a quick word with Jake. And obviously, Jake Nicholls, Wilvo Nestaan Ice1 Racing. It's been a pretty good start to the season for you, hasn't it? Okay, Qatar, Thailand were pretty tough, but you bounced back with a good podium, good overall, your first ever overall in MX2 at Valkenswaard.
Yeah, it's been a bit up and down so far in my eyes, but yeah, obviously the podium was the highlight of the year so far in Valkenswaard, but I've sort of regained a bit of momentum since then, but had a few slip-ups, like in Bulgaria. I crashed in the second race, and then had a couple of silly mechanical failures that were completely out of mine and the team's hands. So yeah, it's going all right, but it's definitely not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be further up than where I am at the minute, but got a good bit of momentum at the minute, and I feel pretty good. So hopefully take it to the next level again.
But like you say, not exactly where you want to be, but speed-wise, nothing wrong there, and fitness levels, all pretty much where you expected to be, based on the fact that you're coming off of 4th place in last year's championship.
Yeah, that's it. You know, coming into the season as well, though, I really felt good, like fitness-wise, and also felt pretty fast on the bike. So yeah, it was a bit disappointing for it to go how it did, but now, I mean, I've still kept that fitness. My fitness has only got better, and feeling on the bike with more hours has got better as well. So yeah, just hopefully try and put it together a bit better for this, I guess, the second half of the season now, and keep the speed up, and yeah, try and get faster as well.
After Valkenswaard, when we went to Trentino in Italy, it looked like you were on course for another podium. Good first race, ran into the back of Ferris in the second one, then you had to pull out, and obviously that cost you another podium. Like I said, it's little things like that. There was a problem again a couple of weeks ago in Portugal where you had to ride at probably 80%, maybe 70% just to bring the bike home. But like you say, the speed is good, and you know, you now need to start the second half of the season to get as high as you can in the championship. What about here, Beto Carrero? Good qualifying yesterday. We're just looking at images from the qualifying race yesterday. Seems to take forever to get by Tonkov though, didn't it? Yeah,
he was going fast yesterday, and same in the first race today as well. He's not normally a fast starter, but this weekend he seems to have pulled something out of the bag, and he's good for a fair few laps actually, pretty fast. Yeah, yesterday I actually didn't have anything for him for about 4 or 5 laps. Couldn't really get close enough to make an aggressive pass. Yeah, got him in the end, and same in this race as well. But yeah, the track's good. It's obviously a much better than last year, which was completely out of everybody's hands. Had a bit of rain last night, but it's actually made the track a little bit better, more lines.
It looks, you know, almost perfect, you know, from where we are now in pit lane where our studio is. Doing a lot of work on the track. We haven't had the heavy rain that we had last year, and maybe what people were expecting this weekend, which is a good thing. So, you know, going into the super final, it's a new start format. The top 20 MX2 guys aren't up the inside now, are they? It's going to be MX1, MX2, MX1, MX2 in terms of the championship position for the first 10 anyway. So obviously you're going to have 450s either side of you. It's going to be, I know it's only short, but that would have been perfect if all the MX2 guys are up the inside in the old style format that we saw in Qatar, Thailand.
Yeah, exactly. It's made it a lot tougher for us. I guess it's a fairer playing field for the 450s because obviously they'd be a bit further out. But yeah, for us, we're going to have to really get over the gate well to be in with a chance of a top 10 start. And yeah, the race is going to be a real war, you know, because this track's not the easiest track to pass. It's not the hardest either, but the pace is very close the whole way around the race. So it's going to be going to come down to fitness, I think, and good lines.
See, Justin and the guys are doing a bit of work on the track, but the circuit in the first 2 races today, MX2, MX1, actually looked like it was getting chewed up. Some braking bumps were coming, accelerating bumps, deep lines in the corners. Like I say, it's going to be a battle of the fittest out there in the super final. Yeah,
definitely, it's getting churned up. Like I said, that rain last night was a blessing in disguise because it saves obviously the guys watering it, and you know, they were out working it in the digger the whole time, and it's only getting better and better, and yeah, now it's looking almost perfect for this second race.
All right, well, Jake Nicholls, before you go, we had a question for you from Twitter from Timu53. Basically just says, Jake, how do you train during the week? So obviously you're impressing your fans out there with your fitness and that kind of thing, so maybe speak to him in that camera there, or her.
I guess it depends on what we do in the weekend. Like after a Grand Prix in Europe, we'll travel back Sunday night. Monday, normally do an hour-and-a-half recovery ride on a bicycle. Tuesday, then start racking the intensity up a bit. Do normally a run or a cycle about an hour-and-a-half in the morning. Either ride in the afternoon or do some intervals on on running track or on a bicycle again. Normally do a session of TRX as well in the midst of all that. And then Wednesday is normally riding, so I'll do about an hour-and-a-half on the bicycle before that. Not too intense, just to keep the endurance up. And yeah, then Thursday try and back it down a bit, ready for the weekend. But try and do a lot of TRX to keep core stability because it's very important in motocross.
That's how Jake Nicholls trains during the week. Jake Nicholls, good to see you up here. Thanks for joining us in our MX Live TV live studio. Of course, he's got the super final coming up in around about 40 minutes time, so we're going to relieve him of his duties up here. He can go now and get himself prepped. Start line's just over there, so Jake Nicholls, all the best in the second race, the super final here today. I just want our cameras to pick up the atmosphere out on the circuit here today, because you know, during the first of the races, the 25,000 or so crowd were absolutely insane. They love what Hurlings was doing and Cairoli, and of course their local guys as well. They like to see overtaking. We had plenty of that in the first race, but you know, hopefully we'll get that again in the second race, the super final here this afternoon. Right, joining me now up here, Adam Wheeler from ontrackoffroad.com. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. The third and final race in our flyaway series. So far here in Brazil, it hasn't disappointed, has it?
No, absolutely. There was a danger for a while we'd have the same weather conditions that we had last year, which were, quite frankly, atrocious. But like you say, Paul, round 7 of 17, it's coming up to the halfway point of the season. We've been to sort of 4 continents now, so it's it feels like we've had a lot of mileage already in this World Championship. But it was a good time to come to Brazil. I mean, this crowd rivals Great Britain and France for atmosphere, and it's it's kind of special. Walking in, and we drove in this morning 8 a.m. and already there's like a queue of 300 or 400 yards of people just like waiting to get in at 8 a.m. It seems quite incredible. But
it was the same yesterday for qualifying as well, and the day was certainly looking more miserable yesterday. In fact, we had rain yesterday in the MX1 qualifying race. And that's the moment where we thought, oh, here we go, because even when we left the track, it still continued to rain. And I woke up this morning, there was water on the roof, sort of on the building next to the hotel. And I thought, oh, my God, we've had a lot of rain. Yeah. It's going to be a quagmire. But, great credit to the guys here. Justin Barkley and the team, they've not ripped the track. They kept it as it was yesterday, hard, slick, and very open. They didn't turn it over so that it would be a quagmire when we arrived this morning. And I think that was the right decision, because we saw some great racing.
Absolutely. I mean, the prep has been first class. I mean, it's, to be honest, I'm 50-50 about the layout of the track. For me, it's just a little bit too narrow, a little bit too tight and twisty. I mean, it's not allowing the most open of racing. But, I mean, the level of preparation and the circuit here is second to none. I mean, it's been said numerous times over the weekend, and it's completely true. So.
Before we finish talking about the track here and do our little mini review of the season so far, worth pointing out, mentioned it in the live broadcast, but the 2017 FIA Motocross of Nations, the deal looks like it's been done to be here in Brazil in 2017. Yeah. Of course, I was talking to Justin Barkley this morning, the guy who built the track here. He says they are going to make it a little bit wider, the start line, maybe more open, the sweeping first turn. All the infrastructure on the finish line is going to be maybe pushed right the way back to allow for the final corner and the finish line area to be wider, and all those kind of things. So I think they will do the homework. If you can already see the track and the infrastructure behind us, it's nothing short of impressive anyway, is it? So if they get that track absolutely perfect, the riders are raving about the track anyway, but like you say, maybe just narrow in 1 or 2 places, then I think the Nations here in 2017 should be a result, really.
Yeah, it'll be almost 20 years, I think, since the last one, 99, being the last time the Nations came to this country. But, I mean, you can see how passionate the fans are. I mean, they're cheering Hurlings on like he's Brazilian. So you can only put, like, the American teams there, give the national, with the World Cup and the Olympics coming up in this country in the next sort of 10 years or so, it's going to be, be a carnival, won't it?
Well, that's the plan. And, like I say, 25,000 or so fans here this weekend, really creating that stadium-like atmosphere, and I know everybody who's here this weekend certainly appreciating that side of things.
Yeah.
Right, let's look at the season so far. We kicked off 2013 back in March, and it was a double header. First of all, in Qatar, the inaugural night race, and then we moved to Thailand. So let's talk about Qatar first of all. We went out, and big wide start straight. Certainly the 250s in the super final were at a disadvantage, but there was some great racing there, wasn't there, Adam Wheeler from ontrackoffroad.com? What was the standout thing? What was the highlight for you about Qatar?
For me, it was just the novelty of it all. I mean, we've seen it also in MotoGP. There's just a different look about the series. Under the lights, that shine coming off all the riders, the colours, everything. It was the first race of the year, so everyone was a little bit nervous. I thought it was a great way to open this season. It's a very different event. It's something that, you're not going to get like the ambience of the crowd like you have here in Brazil, but you do get something just a little bit that everyone really looks forward to, and everybody wants to see how it will work out. So it definitely ticks a few boxes for being different and giving an extra dimension to the World Championship. I mean, people, you know, it has its critics going to a circuit like that, especially a very new one. But you know, I think it's great. It's a fantastic spectacle.
Yeah, and Tony Cairoli was the winner of the first ever Super Final, but Clément de Sale was the overall winner in MX1, and Jeffrey Hurling's in MX2, and obviously getting his MX2 World Championship off to the best possible start. Remember, he wants to remain undefeated, which he is right until this point now.
30 motos.
Yeah, but the racing was pretty good there. I know there were one or two comments, maybe they could be a bit more light, but knowing the Qataris and the Federation, the show that they put on there, I'm sure that will all be resolved and sorted out. You know, a few more permanent light stands. That's what we're led to believe, and I'm sure they won't disappoint. And I think we'll see a difference in the amount of light on the circuit from last year to when we go back in 2014.
If there's an organisation that has the resources and the capabilities to make something better, then it's them. So, you know, I think going back for 2014, we'll see a change circuit, something different, and you know, it's going to be a stable part of the calendar, I think.
Then we went to round 2. Of course, that was the Grand Prix of Thailand.
Hot.
Chalk and cheese, really, wasn't it? Because even though we were in the middle of the desert for Qatar, it wasn't that warm. But Thailand, 37, 38 degrees, humidity, big, wide flowing, almost an old-fashioned circuit to say it's pretty brand new. Yeah. The first time we were ever there, and again, there was some great racing. Again, what was the highlight for you?
I mean, it's interesting just watching these pictures now, seeing all that dust coming up off the start, because we had like monsoon on Saturday afternoon. It completely flooded the track. But, you know, watching Gautier Paulin here doing that big double, that was pretty special. I mean, that was he was one of the few really to do that consistently throughout the weekend, or through the race day rather. And you know,
he didn't do it in qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, look at. I mean, it's something that sort of, you know, you hold in awe. I mean, the way it was positioned as well, slightly on the hill, you're always looking up at it. So that just kind of reminds you what a, you know, an absolutely aesthetically beautiful sport this is. It's something that doesn't make your jaw drop.
And we spoke to him on your podcast back in Portugal 2 weeks ago, and he mentioned that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Just remind us what he said about the race in Thailand and the actual double jump itself, because sometimes he could do it, sometimes he couldn't. And obviously depending on the run-up and that kind of thing. So he knew that he could make time, but it wasn't possible always to make time, because if he was following somebody, it wasn't possible.
I think what surprised me most about when he was talking about that jump was he was describing in detail how he was landing and where he was landing, and he said it was to almost like the centimetre each lap. And the one time he kind of got a little bit off and a little bit wrong was almost the penultimate lap when Clément de Sale, he ran off the track, and they came back and had a little bit of a coming together. So, you know, it goes to show how thin the margin is for error, really.
And then we went from Thailand. That ended the 2 flyaways. Before we go to Valkenswaard, what were your thoughts on the first 2 Grand Prix overall? Obviously, that was the introduction of the Super Final, because back then it was the first 20 MX2 riders would line up, and then the MX1 riders. But obviously, coming here to Brazil, it's a new format. Yeah. Alternate MX1, MX2, MX1, and all the way to the 40th riders on the grid. There was a clear advantage for MX1 riders there, because the long start straight in Qatar and the uphill deep start of Thailand, everyone was looking forward to coming here with the MX2 guys up the inside. Jeffrey Hurling's getting a whole shot maybe, and then making the MX1 guys work, but that might not happen now.
Yeah, I mean, the Super Final was awesome in 2 respects. One, because seeing a 40-strong gate with riders and depth battling through the field was quite unusual. The second aspect, merely because of the speed differential and some of the jumps between the 250s and the 450s, was like, whoa, a bit sketchy sometimes. But, you know, those 2 first events was very much a trial run for it. And, you know, in MX2 we saw the form book with Jeffrey Hurling's the only one really be able to push up into the leaders with the MX1 and run with the bigger boys. But coming here to Brazil, you know, they're mixing the MX1 and MX2 for the start, which is what some riders like Tony Cairoli said will be best, because you're going to get like this point effect coming into the first corner. It'll be a bit safer. Yeah. But then other riders, especially the MX2 guys, are saying, well, we've lost our, you know, any chance of making any inroads into the top 10, top 15 now. So, you know, the Super Final isn't about who's in the top 5 necessarily, and should it be 250, should it be MX2. It's more about, you know, where's the battle happening? Is it happening down the field? And we've already seen from the first motors here, it doesn't necessarily need to be right at the front. You know, we're going to see some pretty juicy action all the way through mid-pack. Yeah,
and obviously the fans here, they will be treated to, you know, Super Final action, because, like you say, the first corner in Qatar, when 40 riders came sprawling around the outside, photographers and journalists were sent running for cover, because it was just you know, a sensational image, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You know, and then, as you say, there's battles all the way down, and you've got guys battling for 1 point in, you know, MX2 and MX1, but they're having battles with guys, you know, from 30th place right the way down, just for 1 or 2 points.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be able to even count the amount of GP moto starts I've seen, but that was quite, you know, the amount of speed, power, and noise just coming around you around the first corner was, you know, that was probably the special moment of the season for me, I think, so far.
All right, so from the two flyaway races, we ended up in Holland at Valkenswaard.
Hot to
very cold. Easter weekend, absolutely freezing. It was actually felt warmer in Finland when I was there for the FIM Snowcross World Championship. But yeah, Valkenswaard, there were some great battles, but Jeffrey Hurlings made it difficult for himself when he crashed in qualifying, but his teammate definitely stepped up to the plate, Jordi Tixier. It was Red Bull KTM 1-2, but Tixier almost doing the unthinkable. A French kid, not known for his prowess in the sand, almost toppling the king of the sand himself, in if not in both, certainly in one of the races.
Well, that's where Tixier has shown a little bit of grooming by the Red Bull KTM squad there, and Stefan Everts as well. All that hard work done in the tracks around the Benelux. Glenn Koldenoff as well. I think he might have even had the pole position in that Grand Prix, because Jeffrey Hurlings crashed on Saturday. So, you know, that Grand Prix, Paul, I mean, it was cold. The standout for me was just how much that sand was kind of frozen underneath. You know, it didn't really sort of bump up and wave up like it usually does. But, you know, just watching these pictures here, Jeffrey Hurlings, he's been the quickest this year, and it's not been because he's started well every moto. He's crashed on the first corner, he's got stuck in the gate, he's come back from like 27th odd position after first corner crashes in Italy, and you know, he's been the fastest unquestionably. There's been no barriers to him. Even today he looked a little bit wobbly whether the perfect record will go, but you know,
like in qualifying yesterday.
Yeah, well, he just gobbled the time up to Koldenhoff, you know, at the front. So you know, it's the dream, as he keeps calling it, is still alive.
Yeah. And obviously, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he deals, as all the MX2 riders, in that super final here this afternoon. From Valkenswaard, it was Arco di Trento in the Italian Grand Prix, and obviously the highlight for me, Tony Cairoli taking his 57th Grand Prix career victory, equals Joel Smets in the all-time win list, ties him for second. Big moment for him, I guess, doing it on home soil as well in Italy.
Yeah, I think he didn't have a very good day on Saturday either, did he? So there was a little bit of like, will he be able to make it happen? Again, another tight and twisty track. I mean, very picturesque. I mean,
very hard pack as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was great because the way the fans managed to pocket in around the various parts of the track. It was a typically Italian track, you could say, very stony and very challenging. Probably one of the bumpiest we've had this year as well.
Yeah, and when I see circuits like that, it takes me back to when I used to race. You know, circuits weren't groomed like they are now, you know, and I hear riders talk about when they get some bumps, it's a little bit sketchy. That's the key word they use, it's sketchy. It's, you know, unpredictable, there's no traction. Well, that's what it was like 15, 20 years ago. And as you say, a traditional Italian circuit like Arco di Trento, a throwback to all that time ago. Of course, we're looking forward to going back to Maggiora later on in the year as well, back in June. So it'd be interesting to see how they deal with that, because again, that's another one of those old school circuits that can't be ripped and rotivated like this. We've got those big steep hills and that kind of thing. So you know, that's going to be another one of those tracks.
Yeah, the same for Annay as well. The next Grand Prix after here in France, you know, that's something that's quite special. Former site of the Motocross of Nations, you know, again based mainly on one hill, very sheer drops, long uphill stretches. It's you're going to have two very distinct tracks there. Again, I think the focus is going to be very much on the start again, like it will be in the super final here.
Then it was Bulgaria and the Kawasaki's,
really, was it? I mean, no surprises there really. Bulgaria, kind of hard pack, fast.
But Kawasaki's obviously last year in MX1 and MX2, Gauthier Paul and Tommy Searle, proving that Kawasaki's obviously have a liking for this place. And again, Gauthier Paulin didn't disappoint. A winner in the first race, was happy to sit behind Tony Cairoli in race 2, and that was enough for his first overall Grand Prix of the season. Of course, that upset the form book a little bit, you know, with Tony Cairoli, you know, second in the first round, then 2 wins at the next, you know, winning the next 3 rounds, I guess.
I mean, it was one track where Tony said to me he would have liked to have had a 450, just because those long, fast uphill drags, you know, the power of that factory Kawasaki obviously held. I mean, it was Gauthier Paulin's track anyway. I mean, like we said, he won there last year, so it was very much, he was the man to beat.
What impressed me, sorry to cut in, was when he won the qualifying race on Saturday, Gauthier Paulin in Bulgaria. It seemed like it was a training ride for him. You know, he just looked like even if he wanted to make a mistake, he couldn't. You know, it was just sensational.
No, it was easy. It was easy. Like you say, it was just on the pegs and just motoring around. He wasn't making much effort. I think Cairoli managed to get him back with just, I wouldn't say more determination, but there in the second motor there was a little bit of a I don't know, a real charge early on, and then Cairoli was able to manage the gap between them. And then Gautier, when he knew he was second, he had the overall just kind of settled in, really. So.
But just talking about those two riders, Tony Cairoli first in the championship, Gautier Paulin second at the moment. Before we came on air, I was looking at the results for the season so far. Cairoli's only been outside the top 3 on one occasion, that was a 4th, whereas Gautier 3 or 4 times with a 7th. That's really hurt his championship. That's why he's 30-odd points behind Tony Cairoli at the moment. And it's that kind of consistency, isn't it, that Tony Cairoli, we're used to seeing him just throw in a World Championship campaign now. Yeah,
I mean, absolutely. If you had to keep on writing a script about MX1, then it's going according to how Tony's won his championship for the last 2 or 3 years. In other words, there are riders out there that could win on a given day, and it won't necessarily be him. It could be Clément Dessau, it could be Gautier Paulin, but in terms of racking up the points week after week after week, that's, you know, the 222, and that's why he's racking up the championships as well, because even if he has a nightmare weekend like he did in Sweden last year, he's still able to go out the next race, pull a whole shot, take the win, and he's got 25 points more in the bag. So.
And 3rd place in the championship at the moment, Clément Dessau, obviously, apart from the red plate that he picked up at the opening round, I won't say he's been a little bit quiet, but hasn't been making the starts, been making it very hard work for himself.
Yeah, and he's also struggled lately on a couple of the tracks where it's been trickier to find a passing place. Does he need a bit more aggression there? I guess maybe that's one of the questions, one of the small criticisms you could poke. But, you know, Clément as well, after having that big smash in the second moto in Portugal, you know, just speaking to him the other day, he said he wanted to feel comfortable again on the bike, you know, so... he did that yesterday, an easy 2nd place in qualification, and didn't manage to pass Max Nagel today. But I think there's a lot more to come from Dessau. If he can keep fit, then he's still, for me, the rider that can challenge Cairoli the most in the championship, or closest.
Well, from Bulgaria, it was to Portugal in Águeda 2 weeks ago. So that was round 6 of the FIM MX1 MX2 Motocross World Championship, and I think by far the best racing we've seen in the MX1 category, because MX2 was pretty much boring, wasn't it? MX2, Jeffrey Herding's getting the starts in every race, including qualifying and clearing off. But race 1, this was the big talking point. Cairoli chasing down Gautier Paulin, last lap, hit a rock at the top of the hill, went sprawling to the ground, and obviously picked himself up. Just again, a reminder, look at the front brake lever, well, just before that, the front brake lever hanging off. He rode round the final lap, Tony Cairoli, with it just on the handlebar under his hand. You know, fortunately for him, it was the last lap, not the first lap, because that would have been very difficult for him to ride around there at such speeds. Obviously keeps his championship alive, keeps him on the podium in all but one race of the season so far, but what a battle between those two guys. And then, of course, race 2, the same 3 guys, really, Tony Cairoli, Gautier Paulin. Paulin on course for winning the overall Grand Prix, but Clément Dessau was there in the background lurking dangerously, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he had won the previous 3 years, 4 years at Portugal, so he was, that was his track, like Paulin, you know, was the #1 in Bulgaria. But for me, I think Paulin was exceptional that weekend. You know, the bumps on that track, I mean, it was brutal. If you can just like to see on some of these pictures here, the ruts and everything, it was really hard work. I mean, this is the penultimate lap, I think, with Dessau just trying to find a way past. I mean, he set pole position on Saturday and was clearly one of the fastest riders, but just couldn't overtake.
And on this particular lap, he set the fastest lap of the race, as you say, on the penultimate lap, so just over a lap to go now.
And he said he took a different line here. He took a different line and just got it a little bit wrong.
And then watch this. Don't like seeing it, actually, but that was the story of race 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Clément Dessau going down hard.
He actually said that, you know, everything, you know, only his head was the part that wanted him to get up and pick the bike up and go back. So I think everything on his body said, look, just stay there, sit it out.
But you can see, I mean, I don't know if Giorgio, our director, can just play that again, the slow motion clip, but as he came on the downside of that tabletop jump, you see him pick the front wheel up to soak up those 2 or 3 bumps, and it just seemed to drop a little bit too early. And obviously then that hit the front wheel, compressed the forks, and at that speed, you know, because let's not face it, you know, 3rd gear on a 450 at that point, just coming into land and push for that next corner.
Yeah.
You know, that's where the damage was done. And okay, the podium was the same for the 2nd week in succession, Paulin, Cairoli, Dessau, but yeah, Clément Dessau lucky to get out of there in one piece, really, and here to Brazil. Speaking of which, Clément Dessau, 24 years old today. I think in my opening commentary I said he'd like to leave here with more than the bruises he left Portugal with 2 weeks ago. Looking good for him so far, isn't it? 2nd in the first race.
Yeah, like you say, he needs to make a little bit of a better start. Max Nagel and Tony Cairoli are going to be fighting for the whole shot between them, I think, in this next super final. Maybe Hurlings as well could be up there, but you know, DeSales has put in some consistent laps. He's got a little bit of an adventure after this Grand Prix in the USA for 2 weeks, so you know, it's a long way to come. You know, I think riders and teams are aware of the fact. All you have to do is walk in the paddock there and see the boxes and see, you know, the amount of organisation these teams put into this trip. So I think, you know, riders are going to be a little bit conscious of coming away from here, you know, with some good points in the bag and not having blown it, you know, not having come to Brazil and wasted the opportunity just to, you know, build in this central part of the championship, because after this race, when we go to France and to Italy, it starts getting very busy, and then we go into sort of like the Baltics and Scandinavia. So
a lot to look forward to. Well, that's all we have time for this week on our 7th live show here on MX Live TV. Thanks to my guest from MX2, Jake Nicholls, of course, Rui Goncalves, MX1, Adam Wheeler on trackoffroad.com. As always, a pleasure, and your insight invaluable and second to none. But as we say, that's all we do have time for. The atmosphere is starting to build again around us, because in about 20 minutes or so, 30 minutes, the final race of the day, the third super final of 2013, will kick off. Of course, the big question on everybody's lips, will it be an MX1 machine or an MX2 that wins here in Brazil? Of course, MX2 lovers and Jeffrey Hurling fans would love to see it be him, but he's going to be at a slight disadvantage coming off that start line here in Brazil. Well, that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in France at Ernay on June the 9th. So until then, enjoy this third final, super final, and we'll see you then in 3 weeks' time. Bye for now. I saw your face, I was thinking, right, so yeah, you enjoyed being there and enjoyed doing it, and then I could see it slowly coming back.